Hi there and welcome to your Abrasive Wheels Safety Training course. I'm Edwin O'Sullivan and I'm the owner and instructor at Edwin O'Sullivan Training Solutions. At the end of the slideshow today we'll have a quick multiple choice exam followed by a 10-minute practical demonstration live online where you will go through your mounting of a grinding disc or wheel and talk through your grinder and what you would check. So let's continue into the course. So why are we here today? So we're here today to learn a bit more about abrasive wheels and grinders or consoles or any other mobile tool that can be used in the operation of abrasive wheels. So many accidents happen each year while using abrasive wheels. Training enhances our safety awareness and our risk perception. It can also help save lives and injury and reduce risk. Abrasive wheels training is a legal requirement under the Health and Safety Act. The aims and objectives of this course. So on completion of this course you'll be able to identify the hazards associated with the use of abrasive wheels, know the risks and control measures required to avoid and reduce risk, know how to adequately and safely use abrasive wheel equipment, select the correct type of abrasive wheel, safely mount the abrasive wheel to a machine, explain how to correctly store, handle and transport abrasive wheels, inspect, test an abrasive wheel and abrasive wheel equipment, and select and use the proper PPE for abrasive wheel use. So on completion of this course you'll be able to identify the functions, components of abrasive wheel, demonstrate knowledge skills to assemble the components correctly. So at the end of this course we will understand the laws, legislation and requirement around the safe use of abrasive wheels and abrasive wheel equipment. We will be able to safely mount, attach and demonstrate and operate abrasive wheels and abrasive wheel equipment and understand and know how to use them safely and correctly in a work environment. So Module 1 covers the legislation, the legal aspects of working within the state of Ireland. So in this module we cover the Health and Safety Welfare Act 2005 and we'll also cover the General Application Regulations 2016 Part 12 which governs the use of abrasive wheels within the Irish workplace. So now we look at the Safety, Health and Welfare Act 2005. So within the 2005 Act, it places specific duties on the employer and employees. These are legally binding duties that you must abide by. So looking at the duty of the employer, they have to provide a safe place of work. They have to give you safe access and egress to and from a building. They have to provide safe systems of work, safe plant and machinery, provide you with correct PPE, glasses, goggles, ear muffs, steel boots, gloves, dust masks, anything that is required under the health and safety. They have to provide you with training and instructions in all aspects of your job. They have to have risk assessments in place for your job. They have to provide supervision and provide a competent person to take charge of all these in their absence. So what is deemed a competent person? So a competent person is a person who possesses sufficient training, experience and knowledge appropriate in the nature of the work undertaken. So it's not going to be someone that came off the street today who is now going to be the competent person within the work site. They have to have experience, they have to have training, they have to have knowledge of the job. So now we look at the duty of the employee or yourself, okay? So you have to keep the workplace tidy and exits clear. You must use machinery correctly and report defects. Wear correct PPE as appointed to you. Attend training. Do not endanger yourself or others. Do not overstate your training competencies. Okay, so in essence, do not oversell yourself. You must tell a person if you're not competent in the job you're doing. Cooperate with all matters of health and safety and be free of intoxicants during your working day. This includes both legal and illegal substances. If you're on prescribed medication that may cause drowsiness or sleepiness, then you are to report this to your site manager or your supervisor. So moving on to the General Application Regulation 2016 Part 12. Now within the Irish statute books, Part 12 of the regulation is a huge piece of regulation that governs the use of abrasive wheels, grinding discs, etc. This is just a quick summary, but by all means, if you feel you need to look at it a bit more, then go onto the Irish statute book and look up the General Application 2016 Part 12. So in summary, the equipment must be suitable for the work it's being used for. It must be safe and easy to use. The machine must not exceed the maximum permissible speed by the manufacturer or the RPM. Okay. Any other information to aid the safe use, including expiry dates and restrictions of use. Okay, some discs won't have expiry dates. A abrasive wheel is properly mounted by a trained and authorised person. Guards, when required, must be provided, secured and maintained but appropriate for the application. And workpiece rests must be secured and adjusted so they are close to the abrasive wheel. So a quick recap on what we just covered. Any of these kind of recap questions, there's a good possibility they will be on the multiple choice exam at the end, especially around legislation. Okay, so it's the 2016 Part 12 of General Application Regulations that refer to abrasive wheels. If you are unsure of anything at this stage, please refer to the first part of the slides to retrieve the answers. Thank you. So accidents and common injuries. So common injuries and accidents that can happen from coming into contact with an abrasive wheels are cuts, abrasions and entanglements. Okay, so entanglements are from long hair, long clothing, hoodies, not wearing proper overalls. Eye injuries are a result of not wearing suitable eye protection, either single or double eye protection, whether it's goggles and a face mask, and contact from projectiles. This can happen when a wheel disintegrates or bursts, sending projectiles out into the surrounding environment. Okay, these come out at thousands of feet a second and can come into contact with any part of your body. Our next number of slides contain graphic images of abrasive wheel injuries and projectile injuries. So by all means, feel free to skip the next 2 or 3 slides.
Of all the tools used in construction, the handheld grinder is one of the most potentially dangerous. Never use a grinder with an abrasive wheel that does not match the maximum diameter and RPM of the grinder. Never use a grinding wheel without a guard. Not only does the guard help protect you from flying debris, but it ensures you don't attach a larger grinding wheel than permitted. An over-rotated wheel can explode, sending shrapnel with enough force to maim or kill. Don't use a grinder without a guard. Always match the maximum RPM of the abrasive wheel to the grinder. And wear your personal protective equipment. You're a pro. There's always time to do it right.
On this slide we have the hierarchy of control. Now this works in every workplace throughout the world. So our first and most effective one is eliminate the hazard, eliminate the danger. Not always effective, not always practical. We always need the hazard in the workplace. We need our abrasive wheels to cut metal, otherwise we wouldn't be able to do our jobs. Okay, so that might not be an option for our job. Next step after that is substitution. We might be able to substitute a hand grinder for a bench or fixed grinder. Okay. Moving on to engineering controls, these are very doable for most jobs. So this is the introduction of exhaust, ventilation, dust suppress systems. We can isolate ourselves from the general public when working, so we can isolate the hazards. We can put cutting and grinding isolation areas, restrict access, and isolate people from our work areas. Okay. After that, then we have administration controls. This is very much paperwork led kind of process. So this is your training, your administration, your risk assessments, your safe systems of work, etc. And then after that we have our PPE. So general PPE for any kind of angle grinding work, our hearing protection, face guards, eye protection, dust mask, gloves, steel toe cap boots, fire retardant overalls, etc. So just to recap on the dangers and hazards of using abrasive wheels and the injuries we can come into contact with. So we can get projectiles and splinters, lacerations and cuts, amputations, impalements and entanglements through our clothing and wrong use of clothing around the hazard itself, such as the grinder. So looking at some of the hazards that can affect us when operating abrasive wheels. So we have electrical hazards from equipment, either battery operated or full electric 230 or 110 volt. We also have the hazard of cutting into live service cables underground. We saw from the images of the damage that burst discs or defective discs can cause to our bodies. We have the hazard of fire, so isolating our hotworks area, entanglement and contact hazards. Okay, we have slips, trips and falls, so keeping our work area clean. Respiratory hazards such as silicosis. We have noise hazards with anything over 85 decibels. We have eye hazards when coming into projectiles, and we have hand and vibration syndrome as well. Other hazards, which include kickback, hot surfaces, sharp edges and defective equipment, poor lighting and the stroboscopic effect. So what is the stroboscopic effect? Okay, it comes into effect when we have halogen lighting overhead. The halogen lighting interferes with the frequency operating between the disc, the light and our brains. So it makes the disc appear that it's turning at a slower speed than it actually is. We touch that disc and then we realise that this disc is turning at thousands of revolutions per minute, and it's too late. We'll already have a finger amputated, or we're after cutting into a limb or something like that. So it gives the illusion that the disc is turning slower than it actually and physically is. Ways to counteract the stroboscopic effect is to have better lighting, LED lighting, working outdoors, something that is not of the old halogen type light effect. Noise exposure from abrasive wheels. So the effect of noise on your hearing can be temporary or permanent. Okay, the hearing loss is usually gradually lost through prolonged exposure to noise. So this is over the duration of your career. It's advisable, it's absolutely necessary that you mind your hearing protection at all costs, because once your hearing is gone, there's no reversing the effects of this. Hearing damage can also be caused by immediately and sudden extreme loud noises, although this is not common. And exposure to loud noises can cause and result in tinnitus. This is that loud buzzing sound that affects that we get in our ear. There's no cure for this at the moment. Doctors can't put a finger on it, they can't come up with a cure. So once you have this tinnitus, it can be for life. On the noise danger. So here's a chart of our various ranges of noise danger areas within a various workplace, working in traffic, working in work, sitting in a cafe. So you can see 60 is a normal conversation. We're not going to be too bad there. So in relation to the Safe Systems of Work Act 2007, an employer has to notify you if noise danger areas become close to 80. So if they become 80, you have a right to know, you have to be notified by your employer. Once they go to 85 dBs, it is mandatory to wear full hearing protection in that area at all times. So once it becomes 85, you have to wear single or double hearing protection. Single being the pelters first, and double being the inserts and the pelters together. Another hazard we can face from using vibrating equipment is vibrating white finger, or VWF, also known as hand vibration syndrome HAVS or dead finger. Is a secondary form of Raynaud's syndrome and is an industrial injury triggered by continuous use of vibrating handheld machines. So it's the lack of blood going into your extremities. What control measures can we put in place to assist us in reducing the vibration of white finger? Okay, so we can have anti-vibration gloves. Okay, they must be suited for the job in hand and they must be adequate. We have anti-vibration handles. This is another way of offering protection to the end user. We can rotate the jobs, so protect ourselves by rotating jobs frequently, so 10 minutes a man, 5 minutes a man, and trigger time. These are measures and controls, so reducing the time you're going to be on that trigger. So looking at control measures for noise exposure, okay, so all machines under the abrasive wheel regulation, you must wear suitable hearing protection. Suitable ear defenders must be worn to protect you against hearing loss. So I won't stay too long on this. Which are better, earmuffs or plugs? For me, it would be earmuffs. They're more practical, they attach to your helmet. They're there every day you need it. Earplugs, they're a bit more cumbersome, they're a one-time use. They fit, they don't fit, they work well, they don't work well. So for me, all day long, earmuffs, earmuffs, earmuffs as a single form of protection. So silica dust exposure. Silica dust is found in rocks, sand and clay. Exposure to workers from quarrying, crushing, screening and cutting, recirculation of dust within confined spaces, for example, cabs of vehicles. It's a high risk, and anyone exposed to silica dust on a regular basis or concentrated basis. They are small particles not visible to the naked eye. They enter through the respiratory tract when we breathe and have long-term exposure can lead to silicosis, which is a scarring of the lungs. This can cause reduction in oxygen uptake and increased risk of lung cancer. This is now reclassified as a class 1 carcinogenic, a very nasty.
Read carefully the instructions in the machine handbook and the safety leaflet supplied with the wheel. Use the correct size and type of guard recommended for cutting off. Check the marking. Declaration of conformity to the standard EN 12413. Not for grinding, only suitable for cutting off. The speed in RPM marked on the wheel is equal to or greater than the speed marked on the machine. Expiry date often stamped on the metal center. Follow any instruction on material suitability given by the manufacturer. Do not use a damaged wheel. To be safe, make sure the machine is isolated. Fit the guard for cutting off. And check that it is correctly adjusted to protect you from debris, especially in case of breakage. Never use a machine without a guard. Fit the handle. Locate the back flange on the keyway. Then the wheel on the back flange, without force or excessive play. Then fit the front flange and make sure it clamps the wheel. Press the spindle locking button. Tighten with the pin spanner without excessive force. Wear your personal protective equipment, suitable clothing, mask, eye protection, ear protection, protective gloves. Make sure that the workpiece cannot move that the working area is clean and tidy, and that no other person is at risk. Reconnect the machine, start it, and let it run freely at least 30 seconds to ensure that the wheel does not break or run with excessive vibration. Work in a stable position. Always hold an angle grinder with both hands. Cut straight, swinging back and forth. Never twist in the cut or force the cut, which could damage the wheel. After turning off the machine, wait until the wheel has stopped running before putting down the machine, and unplug it. Never force the wheel to stop. Remove the wheel if it is not to be used again. Never grind with the side of the wheel, because it is not designed to do this. It could be damaged or burst. Follow all the safety recommendations to avoid serious injury. In case of injury, call the emergency services.